Yes, good morning. We are live. I say we. I know it's just me today because I've not told anyone about this one. Not done any promotion. And in fact, if anyone turns up, I will be very, very surprised. Check this out. Bump my head. Good job. I'm going to be able to edit all this stuff out. All right, let's dive straight into it. Today, I'm going to be sharing some life-changing principles that I picked up during my coaching journey. This is the good stuff right here. Okay, so what is getting in? All right, so what I'm sharing right now is start again. What I'm going to be sharing are a few principles I've learned over time. No, I'm going to delete that definitely. Good job no one's here because it's just me making loads of mistakes. And in fact, it might be better for me to readjust my screen. I think this is why Mr. B says your first 100 videos are going to be awful because you're going to make so many mistakes like this. Anyhow, today I'm going to be sharing two principles with you that are transformative in learning to understand what's getting in your way when it comes to life, when it comes to business. And when I learned these principles, they just blew me away. And I feel like they shouldn't be kept secret, they shouldn't be kept behind a paywall because I had to pay I had to invest every single month to improve myself in business coaching. But there's some things I just felt like they should be public knowledge and they should be shared because it's going to help people so much. And so I'm putting this out there. So the first one is this: what is getting in your way? And just think about that. Think about that particular question and where you are in life right now and where you want to go, what you want to achieve. And if you are going to participate when you're watching this, then I'd suggest writing things down. What is getting in your way? Really have a little think about that. You think once you start thinking, it could be your work, it could be your lifestyle, it could be you, it could be so many different things. But have a think and start writing things down because there's this concept of performance. What does that mean? And it means that we are all capable of brilliance. Every single one of us is capable of brilliance in some way. And that is our performance, the ability to perform at whatever level we choose to. However, there are some things to consider, and there's this formula. So your performance is whatever you want it to be, and the potential is the highest version of yourself. So, I don't know, let's say you want to be a footballer. You know, the potential is becoming Ronaldo, becoming Messi, or one of those types of players, which it sounds insane, but they're so far ahead of everyone else. That is the limits of potential so far that we know as humans, and who knows where it can go after that. But what is your potential in comparison to that? What does that look like? And you just score that out of 10. When you write that down, you say, okay, this is my potential. I'm my potential is greatness at this level, doing this, being this type of person. You write these things down and you score that as a 10 out of 10 version of yourself. That is your potential. And then you subtract the interferences. So what's getting in the way of your potential? And you start writing those things down. You start writing down the things that you think are getting in the way. Is it time? Is it money? Is it your friends? Is it your family? Is it your environment? What is the interference? Is it your business? What's getting in the way? And you score the interference out of 10 and how you are with that interference out of 10. And so that's essentially the current version of you. And then you have the difference between your current score and your potential score, and that's your growth opportunity. It could be 5 points, it could be 10 points, because you might score yourself as a 0 today, and your potential is a 10, which is great because then you've got loads and loads of growth potential ahead of you. If you score yourself a 9, well, congratulations, you're perfect. And I've never met anyone that scores himself a 9 or even a 10. I've never heard of that before. And actually, I was doing a podcast interview a couple of weeks ago, and the guys that I was speaking with, they have met ultra successful people, and they said that very rarely do these ultra successful people feel like that they are successful and that they've got interferences and they feel like they've got still so much more to achieve. And it seems to be a common trait amongst people that are really successful, that they're perhaps never really satisfied, but also they're always looking for ways to improve themselves, which is huge. So this is the formula for brilliance. It's your performance and your brilliance that equals your potential, your 10 out of 10, less your interference, which is where you are today. And then you get to work on those interferences. Then what I want to share with you is a tool to start dealing with those interferences. And it's called above and below the line. And the concept works like this. It's incredibly powerful. When I first learned it, it blew me away, like most things when I first learned them. And it was an absolute game changer, because once you learn this, and I have to warn you, once you learn this, you can't unlearn it. And it can be quite frustrating and challenging because, well, I'll explain. I'll come on to it. So, what is above and below the line? This pink line that you see on screen and that particular dot represents any given life situation. Okay, any given life situation. It could be you're stuck in traffic. It could be that you're having an argument with someone. It could be that you're going through a stressful period in your life. It could be that you've missed the bus. Any life situation that occurs, that's what that line and pink dot represents. So when these situations occur in life, we have a choice to make. Okay, so let's say, for example, you and I, we are on a team. Okay, we're the marketing department of a company, and we've been given the task of sending an email campaign out to our main customers. And there's 5 main customers, and they're going to get a massive 50% discount for the coming month on a new product that we're launching, because they are our most loyal customers and we want them to have it first. So you and I, we've gone away, we've put this email together and we've sent it out. And rather than sending it to our top 5 customers, it's actually gone out to the top 50 customers. So 10 times more people are going to get this deal than we originally intended to, meaning that it's going to be catastrophic for the company. Now, normally in this type of situation, when the manager, what the hell has just happened? What type of behaviors would you typically expect? Have a little think about that. What type of behaviors would you typically expect when something goes wrong to that level in your workplace? So, some of the behaviors that would show up begin with these letters that you're seeing on screen. The first behavior that occurs is blame. I might blame you, you might blame me. No, he did it, no, she did it, he did it. You start blaming each other. You might blame the technology, you might blame something else. The second behavior that you'll typically see is excuses. Oh, I didn't do it. I didn't know this, or I thought this. That person, you know, whatever, they turned up late to the meeting, or it will just be excuses after excuses. And then the final behavior that you'll see is denial, which typically sounds something like, oh, I didn't know that it was that person's job, or no, I didn't do that. It didn't work out like that. It wasn't me. You just become in denial about the situation or your part in that particular situation. So these below the line behaviors, typically they're quite negative. They can be quite toxic, and if you're working in a team, it starts to strain your relationship because it starts to break trust between you two. But what if we were to go the other way in this email marketing situation? So the behaviors that you could choose to demonstrate begin with OAR. Have a little guess as to what you think they could be. And the behaviors that we'd want to demonstrate, or we could choose to demonstrate, are taking ownership, being accountable, so having accountability, and taking responsibility. So if we take this email marketing example, you and I have made this mistake. We've sent it out to top 50 clients instead of our top 5 clients. And in this situation, I could turn around and say, you know what, that's on me. I should have double checked A, B, and C in the plan. If I start doing that, the chances are you're going to do the same thing as well. And you say, oh, you know what? No, that's not only on you, that's on me as well. Then the second behavior I may demonstrate is being accountable. I've taken ownership, that's on me. And then the accountability piece is saying, you know what, I'm responsible, I'm accountable for these checks and these checks and these checks, or I'm accountable for you as my teammate, and I should have checked in on you, and therefore I am responsible. Okay. Now, what does that do for you and me as teammates, first of all? Well, it means that you know that you can trust me and that I've got your back. I'm not going to throw you under the bus in this type of situation. And this can play out in life as well. Let's say you've had an argument with your friend or your partner, and there's been a miscommunication. Oftentimes you start blaming one another, but you said this and I said this and da 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 da. I didn't say that. No, I didn't mean that. But what if we flip the script and actually, in our personal relationships or in our professional relationships, when there were these miscommunications, we actually went above the line and we took ownership. Oh, you know what? Okay, fine. Tell me more about that. I didn't understand you properly. I was too quick in my response. I didn't listen to you. I want to be more accountable for the way in which we communicate, or however you choose to use this particular principle in your personal relationship. It'd be great if you could think of some examples of when you have perhaps had an argument or something's gone wrong, and where you've demonstrated these behaviors below the line. It's quite difficult to do because you don't want to point the finger at yourself. And just jot that down and then think about how you could have perhaps gone above the line. But why is this important when it comes to life, when it comes to business? It's important because what happens is, in all of these life situations, in this email marketing campaign, for example, if you go below the line, you're externalizing everything. You are the victim. The world is happening to me. I have no control. And therefore, it's problems, it's negative, it's toxic. And the worst part is that you've got no opportunity to learn, to become better. And you're stuck. You're the victim. You've got no control and you've got nowhere to turn. And it's just a downward spiral. And the world is happening to you. Boohoo. However, if you choose to go above the line in any given situation, you're internalizing everything. You're taking ownership. It belongs to you. Every single part of that situation belongs to you, and you have now a victor's mindset, because you can be the winner in this. You can learn, become stronger, become better, become a better friend, better business partner, a better parent, a better child, whatever it is that you want to do, a better professional. And it's a powerful principle above and below the line, because it means that now you're making choices. Now you're giving responses rather than being reactive in situations. And the reason I said earlier that this is also quite a frustrating principle is that now you know about it and you can't unsee it. In any given life situation, you know that you can now make a choice to go above the line. And you can't hide from that. And therefore, it's now on you to make that choice. Because if you continue going below the line, you're now making a choice to continue to go below the line. And that's problematic, especially if you're someone that wants to become a better version of themselves. And we go back to the earlier principle of what's getting in your way and your performance, your version of brilliance. And you can only unlock your version of brilliance and start removing your interferences if you start going above the line. And so that is the above and below the line principle that I wanted to share with you. It's an absolute game changer. If you do watch this and you use it, let me know how you get on. Another thing I thought I'd try to do is, I've got this book here called The Wealth Mindset. It was on a list somewhere that I picked up, so I figured I'd read it whilst I'm here, just to make some content. Why not? All right, so I'm reading this book, The Wealth Mindset. Well, I've just started to, here, now, fresh. And the first line says, assume you are what you want to be, walk in that assumption, and it will harden into fact. All right, fair enough. If you say so, Neville. All right, part one, the fundamentals. Important my reading voice. With so vast a subject, it's indeed a difficult task to summarize in a few hundred words what I consider the most basic ideas on which those who seek a true understanding of metaphysics should now concentrate. I shall do what I can in the shape of three fundamentals. And these fundamentals are self-observation, the definition of aim, and detachment. Ooh, it's quite deep sounding already. So the purpose of true metaphysics is to bring about a rebirth or radical psychological change in the individual. Such a change cannot take place until the individual first discovers the self that he would change. Going back to the principle earlier of performance and brilliance, the discovery can be made only through an uncritical observation of his reactions to life. I had no idea that's what this book was going to say immediately after the principles that I've just shared. So anyway, good timing. The sum total of these reactions defines the individual state of consciousness, and it's the individual state of consciousness that attracts the situations and the circumstances of his life. So, the starting point of true metaphysics on its practical side is self-observation. In order to discover one's reaction to life, reactions that form one's secret self, the cause of the phenomena of life. So, with Emerson, I accept the fact that man surrounds himself with the true image of himself. What we are, that only we can see. There's a definite connection between what is outer and what is inner in man. And it's always our inner states that attract our outer life. That's kind of deep. So, whoever we are on the inside, however we think, however we behave, however we believe to be true inside is what we're going to attract on the outside. Okay? Therefore, the individual must always start with himself. It's one's self that must be changed. You can't change others, you can only change yourself. To change your life, to change your world, to change your environment, you have to change yourself on the inside. Man, in his blindness, is quite satisfied with himself, but heartily dislikes the circumstances and situations of his life. He feels this way, not knowing that the cause of his displeasure lies not in the condition nor the person with whom he is displeased, but in the very self he likes so much. Wait, let me read that again. Man, in his blindness, is quite satisfied with himself. Okay, what this is saying, if I understand correctly, is that most people are quite satisfied with their life, they're comfortable, but they heartily dislike the circumstances and the situations of their life. He feels this way, not knowing that the cause of his displeasure lies not in the condition nor the person with whom he is displeased, but in the very self he likes so much. So, that my understanding of that is most people are displeased with the things that they may have around them and the people that they have around them, and they want to change it and they complain about it, but actually the only way that they can change all of that is by changing themselves. And that's difficult because most people are blind to the fact that they need to change and they think that they are great. That's my understanding of it anyway. Not realizing that he surrounds himself with the true image of himself, and that what he is, that only he can see. So what you have around you already is a manifestation of who you are and what you are on the inside. So not realizing that he surrounds himself with the true image of himself, and that what he is that only he can see. He's shocked when he discovers that it's always been his own deceitfulness that made him suspicious of others. Wait, what? Not realizing that he surrounds himself with the true image of himself, and that what he is, that only he can see. All right. So what he's saying is what you are on the inside, you're seeing not on the outside, I suppose, physically and mentally and spiritually, I'm assuming. And then he, let's say me, is shocked when he discovers that it's always been his own deceitfulness that made him suspicious of others. So is that saying I'm only going to be suspicious of other people because I've been deceitful to myself and not accepting my true self? So many questions. Self-observation would reveal that self-observation would reveal this deceitfulness. Self-observation would reveal this deceitful one in all of us, and this must be accepted before there can be any transformation of ourselves. At this moment, try to notice your inner state. To what thoughts are you consenting? With what feelings are you identified? You must be ever careful of where you are within yourself. Most of us think that we're kind, loving, generous, and tolerant, forgiving, and noble. But an uncritical observation of our reactions to life will reveal a self that is not at all kind and loving, generous and tolerant, forgiving and noble. That is interesting. Most of us think we are one way, but if we truly take an uncritical observation of our reactions to life, then that will reveal something quite the opposite of who we think we are. Interesting exercise to try and conduct. And it's this self that we must first accept and then set about changing. So we have to accept ourselves as we are, the good, the bad, the ugly, the bits that we don't want to be true of ourselves, but they are true on the inside. We have to accept them. We have to accept our whole selves before we can set about changing any part of it. Rebirth depends on inner work of one's self. No one can be reborn without changing this self. Anytime an entirely new set of reactions enters into a person's life, a change of consciousness has taken place, a spiritual rebirth has occurred. Having discovered through an uncritical observation of your reactions to life a self that must be changed, you must now formulate an aim. That is, you must define the one you would like to be instead of the one you truly are in secret. With this aim clearly defined, you must, throughout your conscious waking day, notice your every reaction in regards to this aim. The reason for this is that everyone lives in a definite state of consciousness. That state of consciousness we've already described as the sum total of his reactions to life. So our current state of consciousness is the sum total of our reactions to life so far. Right, I'm going to have to digest that and make sense of it. But interesting so far. I'll read this next week. Peace. Continue reading this next week, should I say. All right, peace.